Following is a multimedia presentation that is a supplement to the Sustainable Country Living book. Today's topic is the food grid, planting the Ellen White method. This topic dovetails with Chapter 28 in the book, Food Grid Gardening, Ellen White Method. The Ellen White method is a time-tested process of planting trees, which can also be used for other deep-rooted plants like tomatoes and grapes. Ellen White spent 9 years of her life in Australia from 1891 to 1900, helping to develop the Seventh-day Adventist Church in the South Pacific region, and in particular, the establishment of the Avondale School of Christian Workers, later named Avondale College. During these years in Australia, she wrote the classic, The Desire of Ages. According to Milton Raymond Hook of Andrews University, Avondale School was established in 1894, but the search was a lengthy process. One of the potential properties was Lakeland Estates, which has deep, chocolate-colored soil, but it was too expensive. The Brettfields estate soil was sampled and considered poor and sour. Ellen White explained, "When we were investigating the land at Corranbong, our brethren held off from purchasing for a whole year, thinking to find in some other locality land that would compare well with the rich soil of Iowa. This they finally decided could not be found. But the work was hindered for a whole year because some of the brethren had not the faith to move forward in spite of the discouraging appearances. In the night season, a representation had been given me that revealed this lack of faith. I seemed to be on the Avondale land, and while the horses were breaking a way through the forest, I walked in an open space close to where our school buildings now stand. I saw a furrow made in the soil 1 foot deep and about 4 in length. 2 of the brethren stood at the furrow, one at each end. They were examining the soil and declared it to be of no value. But one stood by who said, 'You have misjudged the different strata in the soil and their uses.' When we came to Avondale to examine the estate, I went with the brethren to the tract of land. After a time, we came to the place I had dreamed of, and there was the furrow that I had seen. The brethren looked at it in surprise. 'How did it come to be there?' they asked. Then I told them the dream that I had had. 'Well,' they replied, 'you can see that the soil is not good.' 'That,' I answered, 'was the testimony borne by the men in the dream, and that was given as a reason why we should not occupy the land.' But one stood upon the upturned furrow and said, 'False testimony has been borne concerning this soil. God can furnish a table in the wilderness.'" Manuscript Releases 15, page 56. Letter 350, 1907, Ellen White again explains, "The man of whom we purchased our peach trees told me that he would be pleased to have me observe the way that they were planted. I then asked him to let me show him how it had been presented to me in the night season that they should be planted. I invited him to visit me when these fruits were ripe. He said to me, 'You need no lesson from me to teach you how to plant trees.' Our crops were very successful. The peaches were most beautiful in coloring and the most delicious in flavor of any that I had tasted. We grew the large yellow Crawford and other varieties, grapes, apricots, nectarines, and plums. While Ellen White was the most prolific female writer in the United States, even to date, she failed to write down the instructions from the dream of how to plant what is now known as the Ellen White method. Her grandson, Herbert Clarence White, learned from her directly over the years, but he also did not write it down. Over 50 years ago, Len Hoag was 13 years old. Prior to this, he was raised in India and saw firsthand the necessity of growing food. This sparked a passion in him that continues to this day. After his family returned to the United States, Lynn took advantage of a life-changing opportunity. He took a hands-on garden class taught by Ellen White's grandson, Herbert Clarence White. In this class, he was taught the Ellen White method of planting trees by her grandson. This method was given as a revelation in a night vision to Ellen White. Lynn has taught this same method ever since, with some adaptations along the way. It also makes pine trees grow much faster. In this photo, you can see Lynn with 2 trees. Both were planted on the same day. The one on the left by the Ellen White method and the other the forestry method. The results speak for themselves.
We want to demonstrate a little bit of divine wisdom that God has given to His children at the end of time in these trees. And this is a tree that was planted what we call the Ellen White method. She was given this method in a dream, and I came across this method when I was 13 years old. And every place I've lived from then until now, if I've lived there a year or more, I've planted trees this way. They've all done wonderfully well. This tree is a little over 10 feet tall, and it's just about 3.5 years since we planted them. Now, all of these trees were just 6 inches or so little twigs. These are sequoias, giant sequoia trees. They're little twigs when we planted them. Those that are planted over here are planted the way the forestry department recommends that they be planted. And the tallest of these is this one over here. It's about 4.5 feet tall. So this is about a little over twice the height. But when we look at the size of the trunks and the amount of foliage, we have at least 20 to 1 in mass, the amount of growth. And the same thing will happen with fruit trees, with tomato vines, with grapevines, and other deep-rooted plants if you plant them the same way.
There are on the internet a variety of websites that explain the Ellen White method with graphics to illustrate. This is one, and you will see that the hole that is dug in the ground has different layers. Starting at the bottom is amended soil, then a rock layer, then pure topsoil, and then another layer of amended soil. There is at the bottom an air pocket by either a can or a piece of pipe. And this is the fundamentals of doing this, as instructed to Lynn Hoag by Ellen White's grandson. Here is another example of someone else who's made a really nice illustration detailing the different aspects involved in doing this. I believe this particular graphic is something that is on Lynn Hoag's website. So, how to plant a fruit tree, the Ellen White method. Video.
Once upon a time, there lived a woman named Ellen White. She was born in America and became a writer. In 1891, after her husband died, she sailed on a ship to Australia and bought a property just south of here. Now, the soil on her property was very, very poor, and she was worried that she couldn't grow wonderful, colourful, natural, clean, organic food just like she'd hoped for. For her, it was a matter of survival to figure out a way to do that. And one night she had a dream, or a night vision as they called them back then. It was an inspirational dream that gave her a method of planting a fruit tree so that it would thrive. For many years, she planted her trees in this way and became very well known for growing the biggest, juiciest and sweetest fruit in the area. Although Ellen White was a writer, she actually never wrote this method down, but for many years her grandson, Herbert Clarence White, he spent time planting trees with his grandmother Ellen and learnt it directly from her. But he never wrote it down either. Then, in 1950, a 13-year-old boy by the name of Lin Huag was attending a tree planting class given by Herbert Clarence White himself. The good thing is that Lin, he did write it down. He's about 83 years old today, and I saw a video of him planting a tree, and I wrote it down too. Now, I can share it with you. This is what it looks like, and it goes like this. First you got to start by digging a hole, and it needs to be about 1 metre deep and about 1 metre wide. And you'll notice when you start digging that the soil looks different as you go down. So the nice soil on top, that's the topsoil. And the next layer is the subsoil. And if you go deep enough, you'll get down to the clay. In most cases, you need to use your topsoil later. So just leave that on the side of the hole. So there's an old stump there, or an old root there. It's dead, so I'll leave it there, and that'll rot and become food for my tree. But I just wanted to show you that I want to make this hole square, see? Because I think when you make a round hole, I think the roots, they just keep going round and round the hole, right? But I think if you make a square hole, the roots come out like that, and then they hit the corner, and then they go in. And they go outside the hole, they go into the soil there. So that's why I'm making it a square hole. I think the tree's going to do better. I think the tree's roots are going to spread out underneath the ground a lot more. See, what we want to try and do, we want to try and mimic the forest. And this hill up here has been bare hill for probably many years. So there's no big old roots and stuff in the soil anymore. There's no organic material underneath here. So I'm going to fill it up with organic material as if I've chucked the forest in here. See, this is just all clay. But I'll put that around the back here to hold the water, and I'll take the topsoil out. I'm just going to keep digging. As you can see, I take the clay out and I put that on the side of the hole downhill, so I use that as like a catchment area for the water. Now, you'll need some ingredients for your hole. You'll need some of your topsoil, and you'll need some leaf mold, and you'll need some compost. And so you got to keep some of your topsoil when you dig your hole. Just keep that aside or put it in a bucket. And then 2 buckets of this forest leaf mulch. This is the stuff that's got nice the nice mycelium, the nice fungi in it. See? In a natural system, all the nutrients and minerals come from the animals and plants that have lived and died upon the soil, but also the rocks and the stones that are found in the soil. Now, if you think of a healthy forest floor as being like a big supermarket, it has all the minerals and nutrients that the plant needs. And the fungi, it's like the shop assistant that helps assist the plant in finding and transporting all these nutrients up into its roots, out into its leaves, and into its fruit. You got to try and think the way a forest thinks. All the animals that live in the tree, the birds, the spiders, the mice, and the bats, and everything else. They're all eating from the tree, and they're all pooing, and they're all dying. The tree is even feeding itself by dropping the leaves and twigs and branches, all of which becomes food for the microorganisms which release the nutrients back into the soil that can feed the plants again. So I've got to get 2 buckets of that. Then I've got to get 2 buckets of compost. So you got your topsoil and your leaf mold and your compost, and you got to mix in some calcium and some phosphate as well into this mix. So calcium, the tree needs calcium. So you can go and buy some dolomite lime, or you can buy some gypsum, or you can get eggshells or even a dead animal. Think about the bones. And then you have to add your phosphate. It's from bones, it's from dead animals. So I use blood and bone. I think you'll also find lots of phosphate in crusher dust. Seawater is full of micronutrients and it's also full of minerals. Seawater, it's even got gold in it, and it's very similar to human blood. But plants love seawater. Not too much, about 1 litre in a watering can once a year. And kelp as well has a lot of trace minerals, and it's very high in nutrients, micronutrients. But just a handful is enough. In the Ellen White description, there's also an air pocket at the bottom of the hole, and you can use a pot or a bit of pipe. So you've got all your ingredients, but you still need some manure. And you also need some mulch. And you also need a big stone as an anchor to put underneath the tree. So mix your topsoil, your leaf mold, your compost, your calcium, your phosphate and your kelp, and mix it all together. And then divide it into 2 piles. One half of the mixture goes in the bottom of the hole, and the second part of the mixture goes on the top of the hole. And in the middle of the hole, we just have topsoil. This is going to be yummy, so yummy. We're basically just delivering a forest floor to this tree. I can't wait to see it in a couple of years. Now we're going to put some stones on the bottom. I'm going to use crusher dust. So this is where you need your stones. The stones help the electromagnetic current move through the soil, move up and down the stem from the roots to the leaves. And all plants need electricity. So then you got your crusher dust, okay? Crusher dust, you can call it cracker dust or volcanic rock, paramagnetic rock, basalt, road fill, rock dust, metal rock, rock metal, I don't know. Try some of those. And it's also got phosphate. Okay, so I'm down in the hole, and the Ellen White method, she suggests that you put some sort of an air pocket down the bottom of the hole. And I think that she thought that because in a real forest, imagine the root of a big old tree that's dug down in the soil somewhere, and the tree dies, and all the microbes eat the wood, and sort of basically leaves a hole in the soil, doesn't it? So that's what we want to sort of recreate in this hard clay soil. So what we want to do is we want to put an air pocket down the bottom, and I don't want to use a plastic thing because I don't think you could do something else. Because in nature, it's the big old root that's down there, right? So I've got a few old dead roots here, and I've got a bit of dead wood, and it's sort of very airy and sort of aerated and old and light. So I'm going to just make a pile of that down the bottom, and that'll be my air supply. So my soil sort of remains aerobic down around the roots, around the rhizosphere, as they call it. So I'll put that in the middle. I'm going to put a hessian bag over the top of that because that'll help keep the air pocket. So after you put in your little air pocket, then just cover the next third of the hole with topsoil. And remember, every layer, you want to stamp it down. You want to stamp it down so it doesn't sink. Okay, so we're going to take the plant out now. Nice and gently. I'll just see if I can just... spread the roots out a little bit. Yeah, you want to spread the roots out a little bit because they've just been going round and round and round and round in a little pot. Yeah, you want to kind of help them find a new direction. I might go and get a big stone actually. Okay, we're going to put a stone in the bottom. It's like an anchor. Okay. And then your last third of your hole you fill up with your mixture again, the second half of your mixture. I'll just scrape a bit of this off and level it out. I'm just going to use cow manure because there's plenty of cow manure around here. Plenty of cow manure. You can use chicken manure or pigeon manure or horse manure. They get stronger. The birds are stronger. The bigger animals not so strong. Cow is good.
How to plant a fruit tree, the Ellen White method. You've seen you dig a 3x3 hole. You put in topsoil. You save the topsoil while you're digging the hole and save it because you're going to use it later. Then you dig out the subsoil and the clay to make a 3x3 hole. Then you collect leaf mold, which has fungi and micronutrients. You gather compost, calcium, which can be dolomite, lime, phosphate or rock dust. And then you have something for an air pocket, either a pot or a pipe. And you have rocks, and you have a large rock for a base. You gather manure and the topsoil that you saved. Once it's all done in the order in this video, then you top it off with seawater, which provides minerals. Planting in the best location. This same individual that we just saw explaining how to plant it came back a year later to see how his trees were doing. And he found that they died. So, here's his explanation. Video clip.
I'd heard the story about the Ellen White hole and thought, well, that makes sense. Basically, you're dumping a forest and what the forest has provided straight underneath a tree. Right? If it's not planted in the forest, it doesn't have all those nutrients. So we dig a big hole, a metre by a metre by a whole metre, and we fill it up with all different ingredients. The avocado tree I planted, it's a little bit sad actually because it died. I was very disappointed. Ellen White, what's going on? I thought. And so that was very sad. Looks like it's starting to rain again. I might just grab my hat. Okay. Okay. And the reason why it died is because on this hill, the topsoil is only about 8 inches thick. So I dug down through the topsoil and I kept that aside to mix into my hole afterwards, just like the recipe says. And then the rest of the time I was digging into clay. So basically I dug a clay hole about this deep. And when the rain comes down and goes in my hole, it fills the hole up. So all that goodness from the forest and everything which is down there, it just gets waterlogged. And we get root rot. And I thought, okay, well, let's try a banana plant. They like lots of water, but it died as well. We've got another Ellen White hole down here. I know this is a little dwarf banana, and I'm a big guy, but still, this banana has been in this Ellen White hole for about 8 months. So you can see, the first one I tried, it died. So second time I'm trying it, I'm putting it down this here. It seems to be alive. So maybe this clay hole wasn't as deep as that clay hole. So when you're digging down to make your Ellen White hole, 1 metre deep, just make sure that you've got a lot of topsoil you're digging through or you don't hit the clay.
Planting in the best location. It appears that his problem was that when he dug the hole, most of it was clay. Clay can block drainage. When it rains, the water collects in the clay like a bowl, and then it's waterlogged and results in root rot. My suggestion is if you have a deep hole with clay in it, you should make a mound above ground to supplement so that the materials that you're depending on are above the layer of clay. I had the opportunity to speak on the phone with Lynn Hoag a few years ago, and he explained his approach to using ocean water.
I use the ocean water minerals in the spring. I use it on the fruit trees every year. This year has been the worst year ever for peach leaf curl. Peach leaf curl is an uncontrolled growth of cells. It is caused by a virus. And so we'll spray the trees with a solution of water and ocean minerals. And we'll also put some on the ground. I put about an ounce per fruit tree on the ground, and so that the roots will take it up. What will happen is that the diseased leaves will die, turn black, and fall off the tree. If we have a leaf that is half diseased and half healthy, what will happen is that the diseased part will die and the healthier part will simply get healthier there. And then the side benefit to that is when we have all of those minerals in the ground and the tree is taking it up, those minerals are going into the fruit while they're being formed. When we do that, your fruit will taste incredibly better, whether it's peaches, nectarines, cherries, whatever. They'll just taste very, very much sweeter and better. So try it and compare your fruit then with the best that you can buy in the grocery store, and you'll be pretty pleased with the result.
Now, in our case, we got quart or gallon milk containers with actual ocean water. So would you translate that to what you recommend we do here? Because it sounded like you had purchased some sea salt or something like that. Can you explain how, if you actually had ocean water, how much would you do and where would you do it?
Okay, first make sure the ocean water came from a clean part of the ocean. Don't go to something like San Francisco Bay or whatever, it'll be polluted there. Assuming that it's clean ocean water, use about a quart per tree, and you can just pour that out around the base of the tree if you're going to water it in. If you feel the need to, then take that quart, add 10 quarts of fresh water with it, and put that around the tree. That way it won't be too strong for anything, and the tree will take it up, and you'll get the same results. If you're spraying the leaves with the ocean water, then take that quart of water. If we've got a diseased tree, take that quart of water, dilute it with 5 quarts of fresh water, and use that mixture to spray the tree. If we have a sick tree, we need to be more aggressive with it. That's why I'm doubling the strength.
But if you don't have a diseased tree at this point, you just put it on the ground, or do you still want to spray the leaves?
You don't need to spray the leaves. You could do either or both, but with a healthy tree, take the ocean water, add 10 quarts of fresh water, put that around the tree. That would be the best way to put it on.
Len Hoag explaining the benefits of ocean water. Ocean water includes minerals. Interestingly, it's very similar to human blood. And it's also interesting that all the oceans of the world have approximately the same makeup of these mineral combinations. He uses it to combat peach leaf curl, which is a virus that bothers his trees in his area in California. What he does is he sprays with water and ocean minerals. The ratio is 10 quarts of water to 1 quart of ocean water. If the leaves are affected and diseased, he sprays them on the leaves. And then either way, he pours a quart or more on the ground around the tree. And what he suggests is the minerals then go up through the roots into the tree and into the fruit, which make them healthy and makes the fruit taste better. I scoured the internet for people who had done the Ellen White method to see what their results were over the years. This example is after year 1. Video clip.
We're here to update you on the pear tree that we planted last year. We planted it around, May of 2021. And this is what it looks like now. It's tall, obviously, and the size here of the trunk is, the tin can is not full yet, but eventually we are going to take the tin can out, and it's more green. And the best part, it has fruits. As you can see, it has fruits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It has 5 fruits. And now, this is only the first year. You're supposed to remove the fruits so that all the energies will be for the establishing of the roots. Right, hon? Mm-hmm. But since we're excited to have the fruits, so we will leave the fruits here because they are pretty. So yeah, this is a grafted pear, and this is the first year since we planted using the Ellen White way or the blueprint method. And see, it works. Now it has fruits, and we can't wait to enjoy the fruits of our labor.
So the results after 1 year for this person is their tree was now 6 feet tall. It was healthy with green leaves, and it had first fruits. It's important to take the fruit off the first year rather than letting it mature so that the roots can take that energy in developing a root system. It's a big temptation to want to let the fruit ripen and eat it. The next example was 16 months. Video clip. This person, after 16 months, a year and a half approximately, from planting the Ellen White method, they had an apricot tree, a plum tree, walnut tree, chestnut tree, banana plant, peach tree, lemon tree, pear tree, and apple tree. Many of them, the leaves were very nice and green and were producing fruit in 16 months. Then here's a video of someone that's 3 years after planting. Video clip.
All right, here's another one. Peach tree. It's full of peaches. Boom. So this one did well. And that is especially encouraging considering that some of the local agricultural experts didn't think it was possible to even grow fruit here at all. Might be just a miracle, who knows. I don't know if you guys can see this one. Lots of little peaches on it. There's some more peaches right there. Anyway, another one full of peaches. It's full of peaches, so wow, nice to have some peaches. Boom, boom, boom. Peaches everywhere.
So the results after 3 years for this individual were the peach trees were large trees full of peaches, and they were healthy, even though local cultural experts thought it was impossible to grow peaches at all in that vicinity. Results after 5 years. Video clip.
Today I'm going to show you how we planted our fruit trees using the Ellen White way, or the blueprint method of planting fruit trees. Here is our mini orchard. We have several fruit trees planted here. We have apples, pears, and a few nectarines, peaches, and persimmon. We planted all of them using the blueprint method of planting, or the Ellen White way of planting. On its 3rd year after planting the apple trees, they bore a few fruits. On the 5th year, the trees tripled or quadrupled their size. They produced more fruits. So per experience, we know that the Ellen White way of planting really works. It takes time and effort to do it, but it's worth it.
Now this person has a mature orchard, including apples, pears, nectarines, peaches, persimmons, and she said in the 5th year, the size of the trees tripled in size. So you can see that the Ellen White method has proven to be a successful way to plant trees, both fruit trees and pine trees and evergreen trees. It also can be used for tomatoes and grapes and other deep-rooted vegetables. To be aware of new videos like this one, be sure to subscribe to the Preparing for the Time of Trouble channel. For more free videos and downloadable audio podcasts, as well as handouts, go to www.preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com. Topic categories include recordings of live seminar presentations, country living, sustainable gardening, homestead remedies, how to be self-sufficient when the grid goes down, wild edible and medicinal plants, hydrotherapy, and end-time Bible prophecies. To take advantage of these free resources, go to preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com.